What's up, guys? It's Dynasty from Mountaintops. I'm Mickey, along with Jimmy and Jeremy. We have our favorite, probably, podcast to talk about for the draft. There are 35 running backs that we could talk about, but we narrowed it down to 8, so we'll talk about those. But first off, obviously, we want to say hi to Jimmy,
Thank you.
or he'll get upset. So, how you doing today, buddy?
Doing great. Now I don't have to throw a fit, so I keep smiling. So I'm happy. So thank you for acknowledging my feelings. I appreciate that.
And the amazing thing is that you were actually right on time of what time you said you'd be here.
Right.
This does not happen very often if no one
kids got picked up, so I'm happy.
2 weeks in a row, and I'm about to have a heart attack. So, Ackman, how you doing, man? I know you almost had a heart attack too, seeing Jimmy come in right at 3:50. So
yeah, man, I'm not prepared for it. I've gotten lazy in regards to having that 5-7 minute window that he says he's going to show up that we can get everything to order. But I'm doing good. I think the expression is saving the best for last. So thanks for going first, Jim. I'm doing fantastic. I am 9 days away from the NFL draft, and I couldn't be any more excited.
So, or another way you could look at it is you're also setting your feelings like a sloppy second to Mickey as well. So that I could look at it that way as well.
But there's no slop. This is a Zoom call.
Depending on how moisturized your mouth is.
While we have wet mouths, let's talk running backs.
Yeah, if you're not salivating yet, well, you're gonna be.
Or now.
All right. And I thought when you said best for last, I thought that's what you were talking about was the running backs. To be honest with you, at first.
Not me.
So we're gonna jump right into it and talk about salivating. We're going to jump right into what I think is one of the best prospects that has come through college in Ashton Genty. So if you want to start us off there, Ackman. Ashton Genty, Boise State.
100%, yeah. Junior at Boise State, coming in at 5'9", 215 pounds. Last year's numbers, he had 374 carries for 2,600 yards. Averaging 7 yards a carry, and he came in at 29 touchdowns last year, which is remarkable. He also had some receiving game. He had 23 receptions for 138 yards and a tutty. No fumbles on record of last year, so that's a very good stat to have as a running back. And NFL comps coming out for Genty is LaDainian Tomlinson and Alvin Kamara, so that's very good company to be in.
I know my mouth is moisturized now just listening to all that.
There you go.
Wait until you hear this. So adding on to those stats, I did a little bit of research, and you said 2,600 yards, right? Ish?
Yes, sir. Yes.
1,970 yards after contact. That is more than any other running back had from the line of scrimmage all year.
Yeah, and I can just for a peek behind the curtain. I mean, the running backs that we're talking about today, everyone's total yards for the year isn't close to that. So, it's crazy that his after contact yards is that astronomical.
We're going to be talking about the second highest rusher in the league this past year, and he doesn't touch 1,900 yards. It is insane to me. I understand he did not play the SEC or the Big Ten or anything like that, but he played who he had to play, and 1,900 yards after contact. This guy is a bowling ball. Or a ping pong ball. He just bounces off everybody. His contact balance is absolutely insane.
And I'll jump in real quick, and then I'll let Jim jump in here. But real quick, I've been so sour on him. I don't want to say sour, but I wasn't buying the hype early at the beginning of these pods and everything. So I just want to say that, now the tape's been watched, I fully support everything you guys have been saying. The dude is legit. The yards after the touch alone, the size, the speed, the strength. I'm looking forward to having a stock of him.
See, for me, I go to Oregon. Yes, he's not in the SEC, but 226 yards against, what were they? The number one ranked team at that point or something like that. They were top 10, top 5.
Top 5 at that point, yeah.
Yeah, 226 and a touchdown against a top 5 team. That says it all right there. I mean, I think the tricky part with him is going to be, and this is the part that I don't have the answer to, is yes, it's Genty. I think it's Genty and everyone else, but what is that gap? Because, for someone who has a few one-on-ones this year, I'm trying to trade down, but also is he just this special? We have, Bijan We have Gibbs. I think as soon as he's drafted, which might make Jeremy a little upset, I think you slot him in as that dynasty RB3 right out of the gate. And I think it's a tricky year where it's be tough to trade that 1-1. So I don't know. I'd be curious to kind of hear your guys' thoughts. I have some trades geared up for it, but I think it is going to be hard to trade the 1-1 this year and really get that value that you really feel that would push you into getting that trade done.
Yeah. So, Jeremy, I'll let you jump in here in just a second, but I did want to say, going off of what you said, how we have Hampton, Trevion Henderson, and Quinshon Judkins, who most people say are the next ones. Now, that order, everyone's not 100% on. But if Genty's not in this class, like, it would be an insane conversation about who's the 101.
Wasn't it last year?
Insane.
Right? You had Harrison, you had Neighbors, but after that, you had all these guys. It was like, take your shots, right? Lad McConkey and Brian Thomas Jr. and Xavier Worthy, right? It's kind of the same thing from last year.
Right. And so for me, to answer your question, for me, Ashton Genty is I didn't really pay attention too much to Bijan, I'm not going to lie. I know he was great. But since Saquon, I haven't seen anyone close to him in college. Unfortunately, he did play on Boise State, so we didn't get to see him against competition every single week. But like you said, over 200 yards against Oregon, around 150 yards against Penn State, who was one of the best defenses in the country. I put him so far ahead of anybody else that, like, he's my RB2, 3. I'm debating in Dynasty already. Like, and if he goes to the best possible spot, I'm not going to ever put him running back 1 because I kind of have a thing for Gibbs as the 101. So, number 1 running back. But
you should put him over Gibbs, right? Because Gibbs is in a timeshare. Like, if Genty goes to the Raiders, there's no one else, right? Like, that's a sexy spot, right? That's you can make the argument. I'm not saying one's to be right or the other, but you can make the argument, right? And maybe it's Bijan, but I mean, Allgeier's still there. They don't seem to want to fully commit to Bijan, so you could make the argument, right? I'm not saying we have to, but like you could, and that doesn't matter. But it's all about like value. How do people perceive him, right?
No, absolutely. And Jeremy, I'm sure you probably have more to say there, so I apologize for taking up too much of the time there.
No, just a quick takeaways. No, it's once the play off of what Jim was saying. Once the landing spot's determined, I'm okay with the rankings. Let's make that clear. I don't want to go into another soapbox, but when you're unteamed, the rankings seem a little foolish. But once he's landed in a spot, I'm all in on Dynasty rankings. I mean, after all, that's where they're at. So all in on any type of rankings of him being in the top 5, depending on the landing spot. I'm okay with that. But no, just to close it, just to put a bow on it here. Everything that you guys have said is right on, but like we can stop saying the conference thing or the lack of competition and like that because the numbers are so inflated. The numbers are so high. He's not pulling up numbers where he's 200 yards more than say Judkins, and that's the crutch here. Like we're talking, he has. We mentioned it earlier. He has yards after contact higher than any of the running backs we're going to discuss today, and that's after contact, not including what he has done pre-touch. So, like, the competition's one thing. The only negative I could say about the competition is what you said, Mick, is we haven't been able to see him as much. But I don't think that plays too much. The dude's a freak.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead.
Does these types of years where there's, like, the top dog, like, there's a guy and there's everyone else, does that hurt drafts or does that help drafts? Because I was thinking about that today where it's like, yes, like, Genty's great, but, like, it's going to be really hard to move off of him, right? It's great if you have the 1-on-1. I think, to make that pick, but if you're trying to trade that pick, like, I think it is hard to move down. I think it makes it a little bit harder. Like, I think of 24, like, you could have moved down and still taken Neighbors and felt good, or moved off of Caleb and ended up with Jaden Daniels and felt good, right? But you move off of Ashton Genty this year, like, I don't know if it's going to feel as good, right? So I was just kind of curious what you guys think about that.
No, I think it depends on whose shoes are being worn here. I think the 1-1, it's hurting your league because, like what you said, it's such a shotgun blast of running backs in regards to talent that you're not needing to spend an arm and a leg to get that elite running back, knowing that you have semi-elite running backs waiting in the wings, especially across the board. So So I think that's hurting him. But then if you're not with a 1-1, I think it helps the league, especially leagues that are fairly new. It's helping spread the love, if you will, in regards to giving everyone a little bit of a talent versus having one top tier talent that everyone's going to have to spend an arm and a leg to get. And then once that one piece is floating throughout the league, then that's it. But I think for the strength of a dynasty league, I think deep drafts like this actually help.
Yeah, I think this is an absolutely fascinating year. Because, yes, Genty's the 101, but, like, no one knows who the 102 is. Like, some people say it's Cam, some people say it's Ted, some people say it's Hampton. I wouldn't even put Hampton at number 2 running back-wise. So I would say, if you say running back, Henderson. It just – there's so many options.
Be team dependent for sure.
But there's the one dude, right? So I think if you have the 101 and you have someone who absolutely loves him, if you feel like you can get enough, it might not be a bad move to move down. If you think, now this is, again, personal preference here. If you think Hampton or Judkins or Henderson are not too far off of Genty as the 101, and you move down, you'll get a ransom probably. And plus one of those 3 players, I would do it in a heartbeat. So with that, Jimmy, you had some trades for the 101.
Yeah, I don't want to harp on this too much longer, but I have like 2 interesting ones that I found, and we'll come back to that when I know we visit a different running back.
Mm-hmm.
But the first one was the 101 and a 27 first for the 102 and 104. That's an interesting one.
I'm taking the 102 and 4. Just to play off what we've said here. Like I can acquire not only top tier talent of whoever I want behind Genty, plus the next best running back, whoever you feel that is. The 27 first, I'm waiting 2 years to even touch that. And God only knows what that's going to be. And again, the 1-2 and the 1-4 are pretty high. It's going to be tough to get that 27 first that high as well. I'm taking the 2 and 4.
Yeah, for me, the 102 and the 104 is so enticing. However, I've said this numerous amounts of times on this podcast. I want as much as the 2027 class as I can get. And then you give me Genty as well. So 2 firsts for 2 firsts. It's going to be hard to pass up. I think it's actually a pretty fair deal because of having to wait the 2 years.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah. But if you get Genty and that pick is even in the middle of the first round, you are set.
I think it's like I always say, I think it's where your team's at, right? If your team's ready to go, I probably want the picks now. And then if you're rebuilding, I think that makes sense. But I mean, if you're getting the 101 and another 27 first, I would expect that to also be maybe that same teams. So I'm making an assumption here. So, but yeah, it's tricky. I think I agree. I think probably a fair trade. I think depending on where your team's at, like. But I don't know. If I'm rebuilding and I have to give up the 2 and 4, like I probably would want a little bit more. But yeah, I can see that being fair. This one was also interesting. 2 for 2 again. You have the 101 and the 109 in 25 for the 102 and 104.
I'll let you go, Mick.
Move things up a little bit, so they're all in 25 now.
101 and the 109 for me. Where I have Genty above the other running backs, plus you get another pick in the first round, sign me up for that all day.
I'm with the Mickey on this one. The weight in the 2027 is not here. It's the 1-9, and like I said, with the 2 and the 4, I'm grabbing the best available back and the best possible position player. At the 1, I'm grabbing the best player in this entire draft, and then I'm only waiting until the 9 to grab a wide receiver that has probably fallen due to the running backs that might go on a run or quarterback. So I'm taking the 1-1 and 1-9.
I will say you better do your research though if you're doing the 101 and 109 because you better know what those teams need because yes, that is like I mean I probably would have the 102 and 104, but if I feel like I could still get maybe a Caleb Johnson or a Quinshon Judkins or a Ted McMillan that far down, then I'd probably be okay with it. But you better know what those teams are taking if you're going to have that kind of option because that's far down, right? And that's 102, 104 on the surface looks better, but yeah, it'd be I would want to know what the teams 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 are all taking to be able to make that trade.
So I disagree. I don't think it matters. I think, and I've said this numerous amounts of times, I think from the 102 to about the 110, 112 is not that different. You have the 2 tight ends, you have 3 quarterbacks who people are going to draft by the time you actually are drafting in fantasy, I'm assuming. You have at least 3 running backs. You added a 4th in Caleb Johnson, and you have the freak in Hunter. You have Ted McMillan still, and then I'm sure there's going to be someone who wants to jump in there and get Goldie or whoever that second wide receiver is. So you have a huge amount of options, and not all of those are going to be gone by the 109.
I think my point is that, like, when I say that, know your league, like, you know, if you need a tight end, like, do you think one will make it to you? Do you need that? You need a top receiver. Do you think they're going to fall to you, right? You know, how many teams need running backs? Like, that was my point. Like, you better know what's coming. So, like, you know, okay, you're picking at the 109. Hey, I need tight ends, but 3 teams need tight ends desperately. Okay, I better, yes, it's okay to make that trade, but then I'm getting back up to make sure I'm still getting the player that I need.
I agree with you, but the positional advantage that Genti is going to give you over the other guys, in my opinion, plus another first-round pick in this crammed class, where like I said, the 102 to the 109 is not that far from me. So it makes a lot of sense for me personally, with the way I've been looking at this class. Again, things might change after the draft, and if people get horrible spots or unbelievable spots, things like that. But right now, this class is so crammed up that, like, the 101, give me Genti, and then the 109, I'll take my best player on my board. I don't care. Versus the 102 and the 2 or the 104. That's just how I would look at it. There's not going to be many trades that I would pick not Genti, to be honest with you, just so you know. No matter what you say, unless it's, like, insane trade, to be honest with you. So, anything else you got, Jim?
No, I'm good. I think that we'll come back to when we have the 111.
Well, hey, how about we do it right now?
Okay.
So, quick look, we have our next player here, Quinshawn Judkins from Ohio State. Let's hear it there, Akron.
Yeah, junior at Ohio State, 219 pounds, 6 foot flat. Comes in at 194 carries for 1,060 yards. He did have his timeshare with Henderson in Ohio State. He was averaging 5.5 yards a carry, and he came in at 14 touchdowns. Had a little receiving game as well, 22 catches for 161 yards and 2 touchdowns. NFL comps presently are Joe Mixon and Kareem Hunt. So we're looking at decent backs here for comparison to Judkins.
Yeah, so I have a few notes just real quick. So how many TDs did you say he had?
Judkins was at 14 last year.
Okay. In his career, he's had 45 career touchdowns. That is 1 for every 16.4 carries.
Yeah, he's a beast. And for comparison, not to crack it open too much, Henderson came in at 10 touchdowns last year. So, again, we're looking at 2 totally different running back styles and needs, but looking at the 1-2 punch in Ohio State, it's no wonder they are successful.
Absolutely. But that's my point is, like, do you expect whoever Judkins goes to, do you expect him to get 16 carries again? So, not saying that that's going to translate fully, but that's won a game almost, which is insane. So that was one of my big things. I see a sudden burst, but really physical, Bellingham, who loves to create contact, but can elude people if he needs to in the NFL. He didn't really want to in college. It looked like he wanted to run through people. So, which I love that playing style.
Yeah, it's my favorite.
All the time. He reminded me a little bit of Pacheco because it just seems like he runs angry, but better than Pacheco.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of him. He's my favorite one in this class. I don't really watch too much tape. I'm not a tape watcher per se, but anything I did watch, I wanted more under him. Like I was excited to watch some of his stuff.
Yeah, I mean, you said the measurables, but 6 foot, 221, and runs under 4.5. Like, yeah, I'll take that. After he ran the 40 in at the combine. Me and Jimmy, I think you might have been on vacation that one of those weeks. And I was like, okay, I didn't understand the Judkins thing, saw him in the championship, thought he was great, and then knew he was a bruiser, but I had no idea he had the speed that he had. He jumped Hampton for me at that point, being my number 3 running back. But like I said, they're so close that you can't really tell. That I can't really split the difference until we see what teams are on, right? But yeah, Jim, I know you had. Well, first off, did you have anything you wanted to say about Judkins?
I agree. I think, when our podcast after the NFL draft is just going to be, hopefully we have a segment just dedicated to landing spots and because I think that's what's really going to be separate these guys. Like there's a lot of guys we like, but I mean, let's be realistic. Like the average amount of running backs drafted in the second, third rounds is usually around like 7 RBs. We're not going to have 30 guys go in these second, third rounds that are very, that will give us good draft capital. So we love a lot of these guys, but also a lot of these guys are going to go to bad spots, and we're going to lose a lot of that trust and excitement. So we hope these guys go to good spots. There's definitely that upper tier of like Denver and Dallas, Chicago, to name a few. So I hope he goes over a great spot because I'll be excited. But otherwise, our hopes and dreams will be dashed more than what the NFL draft will give us, I think. So I'm trying to temper my expectations a little bit.
So you brought up a really good point. Now, I personally think that the top 4 guys are better than almost half of the NFL running backs right now. So I don't know if it really matters unless they get behind Bijan or Saquon. You know what I mean?
I always trust talent over position. I believe talent will always win out, but let's be honest. If they go to Denver in the second round, I'm going to love that. Or, Chicago in the fourth round, I'm going to love that versus something that may happen, going to a worse spot. So, I think it's going to be very, you're going to have decisions during this draft where you're going to take that fourth round running back that might go to a really great spot or the first round receiver. It's going to be tricky, and you're going to have to decide, do I take talent or do I take situation where they have a pathway right now to carries and they can do something right now versus the talent of a first round receiver that, has a higher chance of working out long term. So it's going to be something that we're all going to have to navigate during these drafts.
Absolutely. And you brought up a really good thing that we're actually going to talk about next week, which is best spots. Where do we want to see these guys before the draft actually happens? So we'll talk about that later. But Jeremy, was there anything else you wanted to say? I know you love Judkins. So
no, just I'm a big fan of him, like this type of running style. To play on the Jim's point, I'm looking forward to where he's going to land. I hope he does land somewhere with at least a little bit of promise, not in a crowded running back room. But yeah, I think he was a pinnacle piece of the Ohio State championship run, and I'm looking forward to him in the pros.
Awesome.
For every beat, there's also a Zach Charbonnet, right? So I expect some of these guys they're going to be stuck behind a great ball carrier where the offenses are not designed to go 50-50, and they're gonna wait for an injury, and then we hope. But that's not all these guys are gonna get great landing spots. It's like the 27 class you always talk about, Mickey. I know you're very high on it, but that's also a game play. Not every pick's gonna be the 1-on-1. Some of them are gonna be the 1-on-12, and you're gonna miss out, right? So it's just I'm trying to temper expectations just a little.
I get it, but that 27 class is gonna be.
I know.
All right, I know you have trades, but before we do just Judkins trades, I mixed 2 words there. Let's talk about the special trades that you had set up.
Yeah. So I figured this would be a little bit more of a better exercise where, yes, we always put players to picks, but this time we're gonna, because this time of year I'm trying to trade up, I'm trying to trade back, trade out, so do all these different things. So I figured, if we put names to players, like I found this one where it's the 101, which would be Genty, for, the 111, which could be Judkins, and the 102. So how would you guys feel about that? You keep saying Mickey, you want to keep taking Genty, but this is where you get a running back and potentially a quarterback, that tight end if it's a tight end premium, maybe the best receiver in the class.
Yeah, I think I'm taking this because, like I said, this plays into what I said in the previous trade where it was like the 2 and the 4. You're able to get a running back talent that is, again, depending on landing spot, a running back talent that is proven that he's going to be a force in the NFL with the way he runs, his size, his power, his strength. And then, like you said, I'm looking at our current league where I need a running back and a quarterback. I'm looking at this as a perfect opportunity to acquire both. And at that point, I got to sacrifice Genty. But I mean, at this rate, I'm taking the depth and the talent.
Especially in our golf, like I think it's always important to say, like, especially in our golf league, it's 14 by 10. You need depth. You can't have all these hammers. Like, sometimes you need to be able to split that asset and get 2 stars for the price of 1. So yeah, I think once again, it's easy to put Judkins at the 111 when I'd have to sweat through 10 more picks, right? I'd be stressed.
That's my point.
Yeah.
I couldn't believe when you said Judkins was projected to 111. I'm shocked.
Yeah.
Because if it's Judkins at the 111 and I get the 102, I think is what you said, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I make this trade.
Yeah.
If you can guarantee me Judkins is going to be the 111.
Yeah.
You can guarantee it if you take him at 2.
But then I'm wasting the second pick.
Just
Because I'll
saying.
get the running back later and get probably Tet is who I would probably go after.
Draft who you want, because at the end of the season, when that player has won you games, no one's going to care what position you drafted him in.
Or you really pick it, and then it goes in the other direction.
Yeah, you can draft Pickett and Jameson Williams back to back and not see anything out of it for 2 straight years.
Let the record show that Mickey is wearing a Pickettsburg t-shirt as we currently speak in this pod.
Still love him.
So
I love it, dude.
Don't know why.
So my other one I thought was interesting. It's the 101 and 201. This is a 12 by 12, so that could decide a little bit. It's you're trading it for the 104, 110, and 111. So 3 for 2, 12 by 12. So that's 144 starters.
If I'm competing, if I'm in a good spot, I'm taking the 1 just for the have that nuclear piece. But again, I'm going to stick to my concept here of going quality over quantity, or quantity over quality here on this one. I'm going to take as many picks as I can in this first round. So yeah, I'm taking a 3 first.
101 and the 201. And the reason I say that is because the 201 is in the exact same class as the 10 and the 11, or very close. And you're getting the guy in this draft. Like I've said it when we talked about Genty, but I can't say it enough. This is the guy for this class. There's no one anywhere near him for me. So if you can get him, and the 102 or 103 is not available in the trade, I think you have to.
Yeah, I think, like, and once again, I think knowing your team matters, right? Like, if you're competing, yeah, I'd want the best player in the trade, right? You know, I'd give up 3 medium pieces for the best piece, but I better make sure that 12 by 12, I have a good starting 12 plus some depth, because I probably should say I'm leaning to the right side of getting the 3 picks for 2, but
that's my point. And we're focusing on a depth thing. If you want to say that they're in the same tier, that's fine. But I'm getting 2 in that same tier to your 1. And if I'm looking at a depth perspective aspect here, I'm getting 3 potential starters from this class.
Yeah.
That's why I went with the 3, because it's a blanket type aspect.
And plus, in that 10-11, that would give you some room to trade back up if you wanted to.
Or you do it a lot more with
that right side as well. So.
You could do a lot with that type of draft capital and move it around how you see fit. If you want to move further back or if you want to move up, I just feel with this particular class, I understand Genty being the talent that he is, but with this particular class, I think I can do a lot more damage for long run success acquiring 3 first round picks this class versus 2. Or versus 1 in this scenario with the 2-1.
So you brought up a good point there, Jim. You can trade the 110 and the 111. I would have to have that trade basically already done before I made this trade. I don't know if I've liked the prospect more in a single draft because of the rest of the draft and him more than Genty this year. So it's really tough.
I I guess I'm sorry not to interrupt. I guess it's just tough for me to wrap my head around it because again, we're having a hypothetical situation here. But like I could get a starting quarterback, Tyler Warren, and Judkins with my 3 picks, and I think that would be like a hand over fist steal of a draft.
Well, and Mickey, you're banking on like I think that's the thing. Like I great, you love him, like, but like I think what we also have to keep in mind here, like for Genty to be worth this pick, like we have to ask ourselves that too. Like he needs to be averaging 20 plus points a game, probably closer to 25 for that pick to be worth it, right? And the odds of running backs hitting that tier anymore is very rare. So
in a rookie year where we don't know exactly where he's going, I just think I think he's going to hit like 12, 13. I think he's going to have a great year.
I think he'll be closer to 20 because it's just a matter of like you have to be CMC level for the 1-on-1 to be worth it. Like when it's not a quarterback, in my mind, they have to be elite special. They have to be the dynasty 1, 2, 3 and stay there and keep building that value. Otherwise, it's not going to return the value you think it's going to.
That's true, but then I'm also getting something at the 201 as well that's not that much different than the 110 to 111. So I'm losing a player, but I'm gaining the stud.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
You're banking on him being elite, and the other side, I'd be banking on him being great. And I win, and you lose. But then for him to be elite, like the odds say it's going to be here more. It's going to be great versus elite more. But if he hits that, then you've won, right?
Yeah,
that's what we're playing on.
The only caveat to that, and the only way I would take the 3 is if for some if I was rebuilding right now, I need those picks. I need I need more players on my roster. I would definitely consider it. I don't think it's that far off. I just 2 for 3 is okay for me to have Genty as one of those 2. I would take that. So, all right. So next guy up is Caleb Johnson, Iowa.
Yeah, junior out of Iowa. He's coming in at 225, 6 foot flat. He had 240 carries last year for 1,500 yards, 21 touchdowns. He had 22 receptions for 188 yards and 2 more touchdowns receiving. He comes in with some fun comps. He's coming in with a James Conner and Arian Foster type compositions or comparisons to him. So I'm looking forward to your take on that because I know you're a big Conner fan.
Oh, yeah, you want the pit, so I have to be a Conner fan, right? He's the man.
That's great.
And he's the running back for Kyler Murray, which I love too. So that helps. The comp that I saw or that I heard was Ramondre Stevenson. That kind of scared me a little bit. I like your comps better, just as always.
Fair enough.
So do you want to hear the positive or the negative?
Let's go with the negative, and then we can add a little sprinkling of positive to boost us back up.
2 things that worry me. He runs high, is what I read and heard multiple times. And then also he had the 4th best rated offensive line. So was he just a product of the offensive line is my worry. Because he didn't show out at the combine. I didn't see anything super special when I watched him. It was just beat down the defense consistently. And this is the positive, is he consistently can run 4 days. And then in the 4th quarter, late in the 3rd, gash you for a big run or a big play. You know what I mean? But those aren't consistent in the beginning of the game. Like he just wears down a defense and then is able to make that one move and go. So little worrisome for me. I have him a lot lower than most people do, just because I do think it could be a product of one of the best offensive lines in the country in Iowa. So I'd love to hear what you guys think about that.
He's someone that's got some stink on him. Like, I think he's a good back, but like when he ran slower than the other running backs, and I think there's enough like negativity. I think he's going to fall in rookie drafts. I think he'll end up being good value, but he's someone that I think just like you have that perception. It's kind of like the Shedeur Sanders. Like I don't know if it's warranted or not, but there's enough there that like, okay, if he comes out and just is okay, or he sits behind a run, he gets drafted to Washington, for example, and he's stuck behind Brian Robinson for 4 games. Like his value is going to dip so hard that you're not going to be able to trade him versus a Judkins or something like that. Like he just needs one long stretch, and we're good. We could sell him. So like that's what I worry about more is like his artificial dynasty value is he's got enough on him where I'm worried that I'm not going to be able to do anything with him post draft.
Yeah, and I like what you said there about not being able to do much with him fantasy wise, because as a NFL back, he might be good, but does he catch out of the backfield real well, which is something we care about? He doesn't get a lot of splash plays, a lot of big yardage or anything like that you need in fantasy. He moves the chains, but that's about it, if that makes sense. So, Agnew, what do you think about Caleb Johnson?
No, I like the talent. I think out of the 8 running backs that we're going to discuss and presently discussing, I think he's one that is going to be landing spot relevant. I think, like what Jim was saying, I think it's 100% based on what team he gets drafted by. I think if he goes to a Denver, I think he's going to look a little bit more attractive because that running back room is sus. But again, I think it's going to be solely dependent on where he gets drafted.
No, and that's a really good point, and that we could say that about all these guys too.
True, but I mean, there's ones that you feel okay. So like Judkins would be, or Hampton would be great on Chicago, but they would do decent elsewhere. There's running backs that like you have favorable spots, but that they're not going to sink or swim by landing on Team X. Caleb Johnson had, to me, out of the ones we're discussing, has more tendencies to be reliant on a landing spot, is my opinion.
No, I agree with you. I think that is true. That's a good point. We're going to move on to the last one in this first group here, Dylan Sampson, Tennessee.
Yeah, junior out of Tennessee, 5'11", 201. He had 258 carries for a hair under 1,500 yards last year, and he came in at 22 touchdowns, 143 yards receiving out of 20 catches. And player comps are Achane and James Cook. So a very good company to be a part of.
So when I heard his comp was Achane, I was like, oh, all right. This is a guy I need to get. Because I'm an enormous Achane fan. And if he goes to the right system in Samson, and this is what I said about Achane, if he goes to the right system, which he did, he could be a top 10 back. But he has to go. This is one, like you said about Caleb Johnson, this is a guy I feel like has to go to a team that plays fast. Like the Miami Dolphins did with Achane, if that makes sense. Because
it makes sense.
Explosive, but there's not much else there, in my opinion. 35.
Achane's done well in Miami, so hey.
Exactly. And I did everything I could to get him when I found out he went to Miami. You know what I mean? So for Samson, 35 touchdowns in 3 years at Tennessee, not too shabby. I mean, he is an explosive one-cut-and-go guy and can get yards quick. And it has good footwork as well. So I like him. I'm just worried about the NFL, smaller back, got to be in the right situation.
You need to be able to pass pro. You need to be able to pass protect. And, I'm not sure if you can or not, but, like, the smaller guys, they usually struggle with that. So, like, if you can't pass protect, you can't be on third down, which means you can't get the high value targets for fantasy. And that's where, then is he big enough for, first down, second down, not either. So where's his role at? So I'd be kind of curious what happens.
That is a great call. I didn't even really pay attention to his pass protection, but that is a really good call. He is a little suspect there. So, yeah. But again, if he gets on a team like, I don't know who plays fast. I always think of the Dolphins, but I know he can't go to the Dolphins because there's 2 of them there already.
Cincinnati, like something like that.
Yeah, Cincinnati or the Niners, and back up CMC for a year, and then whatever happens to CMC this year, and is able to become that number 1 in the Niners. That'd be interesting. But if he ends up in, like, I'm going to use Pittsburgh because it's a great example for this, he will die. He just won't be able to succeed because that's not their offense. So that's the thing that I worry with him. But I love his talent. When I heard A-Chain, I got super excited and perked up a little bit, but it's got to be the right situation. So we're going to actually shoot over to the halftime player profile here and talk about the most relevant possible person. And I didn't know this whenever we set this up, but this just worked out in Breece Hall. Right now for the New York Jets, fourth year, going into his fourth year, which I can't believe I'm saying that already. But the big thing we want to talk about is I've heard him linked to 4 different teams and trade rumors. Like, I didn't even know he was on the trade block until last night. So what do you guys think about if he stays with the Jets? And then what do you think about if he, depending on what team he goes to, what his value is going to be? Ackman, we'll start with you.
I'm not the biggest fan of running backs with a mobile quarterback, and the Jets landscape has completely changed over the past month. So I'm curious to see what kind of yardage is going to be impacted with a scrambling Justin Fields. Furthermore, it did come out, I don't know if you want to buy it or not, but it did come out that the Jets were indicating that they were hinting toward a committee. So right now, Breece's value is pretty low, in my opinion. I'm not saying he's peanuts, but I don't think you're going to get what you want for him with this news coming out and with the Fields acquisition. I think he's a great running back. I remember him when he came out in the class. And to your point, I can't believe, like you said, it's his fourth year. But like looking at the numbers last year, he was 18th in carries, he was 24th in yards, and he was 33 in rushing touchdowns. So, I mean, and he had 6 fumbles, 2 were lost. So, like, he didn't have his greatest year last year. And then, like I said, with the Fields on top and then the committee rumors, it's the value of what you're going to get for Breece isn't what you're going to like, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I get that. And right now, he's being listed in fantasy-wise, at least, as like the 5th or 6th running back. I'm not paying prices like that to acquire him right now.
Exactly. Yeah, like
anywhere near.
that spot's very favorable of what he's done in the past, but not a reflection of what could potentially happen this year. And that's what I'm ranking my future drafting on is not what are you going to do for me in the past, what are you going to do for me this year? And this year he spooks me.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Jim, what are your thoughts on all this?
I'm thinking from the dynasty realm, and like I don't know, we're so close to the draft. I would not be trying to acquire Breece Hall right now. I'd be holding on all running backs because if we're talking about 30 guys that teams like and could get drafted. I'm like I don't trust any running back right now, to be honest, outside of maybe a few, but he's definitely not one of them. Struggled last year, like where he's probably going to be in a committee because he still hasn't really come off that ACL that well. Last year was very down, so I don't know. There's not much hype around him. He's just kind of there. Like I think he's a middling back at this point, and I hope I'm proved wrong, but that's something that I would maybe look to acquire after the NFL draft.
That's the thing that kind of is interesting to me. And one of the questions I was going to ask you guys is, do you think he's going to bounce back or not? But right now it doesn't matter because if he stays with the Jets, I guess the Jets really like Braylon Allen. I don't get it, but they really like Braylon Allen, I guess. And if he goes somewhere else, who knows how that's going to work out, right? So the bounce back really doesn't even matter anymore. It matters like he's still projected as the number 6 running back in fantasy. And we're talking about him like he's maybe the top 20 in our eyes. Right?
Well put.
The value on the ranking versus the value in at least all 3 of our minds right now is so different that this is a guy I wouldn't even want on my team right now because I have no idea what to do. And I'm glad I don't have any shares of him with Dynasty because I have no idea what is going to happen in the next week and a half. And it sounds very strong that he's going to get traded on draft night. But who knows what day and who knows for how much and who knows where. So it's going to be really interesting. And you kind of answered my other question, Ackman, in the worries about the QB. I know you had a little bit of worries. But I go back to Derrick Henry had a really nice year with Lamar. The best running back in the country last year was Saquon Barkley, and he had a rushing quarterback. So I get what you're saying most of the time. And Brian Robinson had a fine year too with Jaden Daniels. Now, nowhere near those two, don't get me wrong. But I don't feel like it really changes anything because a lot of teams want to run right now. So what are your thoughts, Jim, about if he does stay with the Jets, about him and Fields working?
Well, I mean, he's going to have to break long ones. Derrick Henry and Saquon Barkley, they broke long ones. That's where their value came. Does Breece Hall break? Yeah, does he break long runs anymore? I didn't see it last year. I had him. He frustrated me. Just like Brian Robinson, same thing. Like, yeah, you had a rushing quarterback, but guess who broke the long ones? Jaden Daniels. So you better be breaking those long runs and long touchdowns, or you will get lost by those rushing quarterbacks.
That's a great point. Anything to add, Ackman?
Nope. Jim came in with the assist.
Perfect. All right. Anything for Breece at all?
I would probably buy after the draft if he gets traded. Buy that dip, see if you can find a little value, and then see what happens.
I'm only buying after the draft if he's traded. On that scenario Jim said, that's the only way I'm buying. But I'm not buying him on the Jets.
And not at the value that he is right now.
100% not the value.
100%. I have to say that as
100%, yes.
The fact that he's projected as a number 6 running back is crazy to me still, with what the Jets have been saying. So, moving on, we're going to go to the second half here, the rookie running backs. Probably go a little bit faster on these ones, actually. So the first one's going to be Trevion Henderson, Ohio State, and we had a really good reason to bring him up first. And Akram, why don't you do the honors?
Yeah, no, it's senior out of Ohio State. We touched on briefly with his with him partnering with Judkins, but all the comps coming out for him indicate that he is Breece Hall. So I mean, I think this was a very fun comparison to do right after Breece. 6'1", 208, senior year, again at Ohio State. He had 144 carries for 1,016 yards, averaging 7.1 and 10 yards per carry and 10 touchdowns. He did have some receiving game. He had 27 receptions for 284 yards and a touchdown. So nice, well-balanced back. It deserves the hype that he's getting.
Yeah, so the number one thing I'll say, this is my number 2 running back in the class, is because he was on Ohio State, Judkins did not have to catch the ball. So Judkins' receiving numbers are a little bit down from this year, but he was a very good receiver in Ole Miss. It just tells you how good of a receiver Trevion Henderson is and can be, is what I was getting at there. Great hands, great in pass protection. From what I heard, he may be one of the best in the class, and he's a little bit smaller of a back, which was really surprising. Also, and this cannot be, like I said, Dylan Sampson was explosive. Trevion Henderson is explosive. Like if he gets in the open field, he won't be caught. I know his 40 time didn't look as great as I expected it to look, but you watch him on tape and no one's touching him. Is the kind of running back that I saw, at least, which is why in fantasy I have him as my number 2. In real life, I actually have him probably 4th because he's not going to play as much, but he has that potential of Achane, Gibbs, those kind of backs who only play a certain amount of snaps, but they're so valuable of snaps, if that makes sense. So, Jim, if you want to go ahead and add anything.
No, I think him and Quickshon are going to be the most talked about after the draft because it's like they split time all year. I know Trevion was much better as a freshman. That's where he came onto the scene and had a dip in his sophomore year. So, yeah, I think those two guys, we kind of see their pathways in this career because, they're very similar, but they're also very different as well. So you kind of see I think those discussions after the draft will be, quite entertaining to have.
Yeah, and that's a really good point because last year, Trevion Henderson declared that he was coming back late. Like, people thought he was going to the NFL. And he was by far the running back 1 in that class last year already. And then, of course, Judkins comes. He comes back to win the championship, and they do. And I love speed when it comes to running backs. So that's why I absolutely love this guy. The one question I did have for you guys, real quick, is what if he, and we should talk about this probably next week instead, but what if he's the Broncos Joker? Because I heard that, and I was like, oh my God.
Nasty. For the reasons of what you just said. He can pass block, he can catch, he can run, he's fast, he's elusive, he's powerful. Like, it would be nasty. I think I agree with you. I think he's the second best back, as much as I have a crush on Judkins. I think Henderson's more well-rounded. I think he's just the better of the two, and I think that'll be shown.
Yeah, I don't know. As soon as that Friday is finished, I think that's because that will really impact our first round of our rookie drafts. Like, you better get your players in order, because I think, the Chargers, the Bears, the Steelers, the Cowboys, so on and so on, like the Raiders, like they're going to be taking running backs, and you're going to have to decide. And that's what we talked about the whole episode, was that, like, okay, am I taking the fourth round guy that the Broncos may choose then, or do I take the first round receiver? Because the Broncos is a sexy spot, but the first round receiver still. So it's navigating these rookie drafts to be quite entertaining, because we don't know where these running backs are going to go, and there's going to be some guys in the 5th, 6th round that are going to have opportunity, and you're going to have to decide over that.
No, and that's a really good point. And I know you really focus on draft capital. I know that. So, and it's a good way to do it for sure. So, moving on here, we're going to talk about what a lot of people say is the second best running back in this draft. We don't, apparently. But Omarion Hampton, UNC.
Yeah, I mean, this dude's been up and down ever since the combine. He was right up there with Genty, and now he's like 4th or 5th in some of them, if not lower. He's 220. He's 6 foot. He had 281 carries last year for 1660 in yardage, averaging 5.9 a carry, and he had 15 touchdowns last year. He also had a decent receiving game at 38 receptions for 373 yards and 2 touchdowns. So again, he was well-rounded in North Carolina, and I'm curious to see what you guys have to say about him, especially with his roller coaster type projections.
Do you have comps on him?
Oh, I do. My apologies. I thought I was missing something. The one that was coming heavy was Josh Jacobs. So Josh Jacobs was a good comparison to Hampton, and I feel that that's fair.
I like that. I had 2. Jonathan Stewart played for the Panthers, and Joe Mixon were the 2 that I heard. And someone actually said it was like those 2 had a baby, which I thought was kind of funny. But what I see when I look at Omarion Hampton, bulldozer with speed, 3-down back for sure, good vision, up and down runner. He's not going to do too much side to side stuff. He wants to get yards, move forward. So those were the big notes that I had. I like him as a running back. But again, in fantasy, I just don't know if he...
I joined the party late, obviously, like I said with the stuff. So I joined it right during his, quote, downfall, if you will. But what has been coming out in regards to negative aspects with Hampton that has caused his slight decline?
So I think there's just a difference when you look at the NFL, people talking NFL and people talking fantasy. People that are focused on dynasty, on fantasy, are big fans of Henderson, fans of Judkins a little bit more, just because of what they can do in the passing. Hampton can catch out of the backfield for sure, but he's not as well versed as those 2 are. So I think that's where the difference lies. If you're talking about NFL, this is the complete all-around back that people absolutely love in the NFL. So he's being projected as the number 2 back, possibly a top 10 back, what I'm hearing at this point, in the actual NFL draft. So when you look at these 3 running backs after Genty, you have to differentiate, okay, are we talking about NFL or are we talking about fantasy? And we talk about fantasy, and that's why I have Henderson higher. I have Judkins a little bit higher than Hampton, because they can do the things that get the points that we're looking for.
Fair enough.
I think it's player fatigue at this point. We get so bored. We need content, so we try to tear players down too. I think you can do that with every player, maybe outside of Genty at this point. But I think it's happened with Shedeur Sanders at this point. I think it's happened with Tyler Warren right now. Matthew Golden. For example, I think some of these guys, Ted McMillan, same thing. So, yeah, I'll let the NFL draft decide who's good and not, and then I'll go from there.
No, and that's a good point. Like I said, for these three backs at least, I think that they're so close together that the NFL is going to tell us one thing, but for fantasy, it's going to be a little bit different. That's just how I see it. So I know you had one or two trades that you want to talk about from Hampton here. So
yeah, and once again, I just kind of trading. So I had some interesting ones here. 102, or where we had Hampton kind of going, which was the 104. So it was the 102 for the 104 and the 207.
Say that one more time for me. I'm sorry.
So 102, or the 104, which is where we project Hampton to go in rookie drafts at this moment, and the 207. So you get an extra second to move back 2 spots.
I'd probably do that. Yeah. Jeremy, what about you?
I don't know if I will. I think if I'm going to be at the 2, I'm player focused at that point. I've sat here with the 1-2, knowing Genty was going to be gone midway through the college year. I am now focused. I have now think big picture and thinking future. So I'm telling you, I've already planned my year. I've already done my waivers. I've already done my trades and everything based off of me taking a certain player or certain position at the 2. So I'm going to keep my position.
What would it take for you to move back then? Because that's the game we're playing right now, right? We're in negotiation.
I would probably need a better second. Okay. I would probably need a better second.
Like what? 202, 24. Like what would?
Yeah, give me 1-2. Give me the 2. I wouldn't go any higher. The 2-2. If he would go 2-2, then that to me, I would be able to move up 5 more spots than what the original trade would be, and that would give me at least some type of more closure. Because again, it is intriguing to move back 2 spots and gain a second. Like we're talking, that's decent draft cap. So I mean, it's not the offer that intrigued me. It was 2-7. But if we shoot up to do a 2-2, a 2-3, I'd pull a trigger.
Okay. The other one, I'm kind of seeing a lot of the same things. It would kind of take a second to kind of move, back that a couple spots, because I see another one that's, I think this one's pretty interesting though, where it's the 1-4 and 2-6 for Garrett Wilson and a 3-10 and a 12/11. So I mean, you're making a bet on Garrett Wilson and Justin Fields probably, but it's interesting.
I personally am high on Fields this year. I'm not predicting him to be, top 5, but I do think that he's going to be. I think he's going to have his most successful year this year. So the Garrett Wilson intrigues me, but again, I think on that back half, I think I need. Would you say 3-10? I think I need an early third for that, because as high as I am on Fields or whatever the situation is, we still don't know anything on it. So for me to take that risk in regards to how the Fields-Wilson relationship is going to go, I'd need a higher third.
I would probably re-roll that Garrett Wilson into the 104, 206. I think I'd be okay with that. Yeah, like I don't know. Garrett Wilson doesn't feel a lead at this point, and I'm re-rolling into someone that's going to have hype. The excitement coming off the draft. So give me the 104 and 206.
Yeah, I agree.
The last one I found interesting because this is like these are the spots that also like if you need a quarterback, I'd be selling this 1-for-1 maybe, but it'd be Kyler Murray in the 305 for the 1-4, 204, and a 26 second and a 12/10 super flex.
Well, we're projecting that the 104 is going to be Hampton, right?
Yeah.
So if that's the case, I do not make this trade.
I take Kyler.
Yeah.
Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I'm taking Kyler, dude.
Kyler.
I'm taking Kyler. He got Trey McBride. He got Harrison. Like, he got weapons. He got skill. He got experience. He got a good foundation. I'm taking Kyler.
He's also said he's going to run more this year.
Ooh.
Which is one thing that he didn't do at all last year. And when he can unlock that with those weapons he has, with Connor behind him, this is going to be a fun offense to watch if he actually is able to move forward with that rushing for himself as well. Infinity-wise, that's where the points come, is if he's able to make all of that work.
Yeah, if it was a deeper quarterback class, I would consider it for the other side, but I can't trade a quarterback for a running back ever. I just can't do it. I'm sorry.
That's exactly what my point was too. I'm a little bit biased when it comes to Kyler Murray. Obviously, you know that. But even if this was really anyone around that quarterback, whatever quarterback he is, I would still take the quarterback over worried about the 104. So, all right. So we're gonna go to the last person that we have today. Can Scatabo. I love saying his name. Arizona State.
Arizona State, he's a senior, 5'11", 215. He's coming in with comps of Jalen Warren and Jay Ajayi. There's a nice name for you. Carries, he has 293 for 1,700 rushing yards and 21 touchdowns. He also was popular in the receiving game out of the ones we've discussed with 45 receptions for 605 receiving yards and 3 touchdowns.
This is one of those guys that everyone's waiting to see what happens, I think. He was second in, I believe he was second in rushing this past year, behind Genty, of course. He was also second in missed tackles forced behind Genty, of course. And elusive in the open field, but can run over you if he wants to, but showed that elusiveness a lot. Also, the last thing I have, or two things here. Good pass catcher, as we talked about. What'd you say, about 600, over 600 yards?
Yeah, 605. 605, yeah.
So obviously he has that in his bag as well. And his legs never stop. He is one of the hardest working, seems like one of the hardest working running backs in the class this past year. Like, he would just fight for everything. I heard one person on a podcast, apologize, can't remember who it was, say that sometimes he wished he would have just died on this, like just stopped, and taken the loss. And he just would never do it, which I absolutely love, that fight. So the comp I had was Kareem Hunt, which was a really interesting comp, I thought, because he good runner, good pass catcher. So, Jim, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I love it. I worry how, will he be that home run threat? Because I think that's the thing is, like, he's kind of perceived as that slow guy, the little battering ram. What's the contact? But, is he Derrick Henry or is he going to be Derrick Henry light? I mean, it's going to be tricky. I think, if he fits into a running back committee where you got the Lightning and Thunder or Sonic and, what's the other? Knuckles. Like that. Like, I think that's will be a perfect compliment. So it'd be kind of, he's someone that I'll be like really curious where he goes, because that would definitely directly impact, because we have it projected at the 210, like could get bumped up or even farther back, depending on where he lands.
I don't know. Something's telling me that something's going to line up for this kid. Something's telling me that 210 is going to be way undershot when he lands in the draft. I just something's telling me that he's gonna benefit from a landing spot, and he's gonna shoot up the draft boards.
But this is also why you have seconds and thirds, and you've made those trades, because this is where you can, like, hey, I love this player, and he's the 204, 205, 206. Like, I can add a third, I can add a second and get up there, and that's why you make these trades throughout the season. Keep accruing draft cover, because you can make these trades easily. Versus, like, you don't have those seconds and thirds, you're stuck. You're going to have to invest into 26 and 27, and that's not really what you want to do. So you want to keep it, that's why you want to make these moves throughout the season, be as active as you can.
Yeah, and I've seen some mock drafts in Dynasty, and he's going right on the turn. So when you showed the 210 to us, I was like, wow, this is a lot different than everything I've been hearing. That's why I was so excited to kind of hear his trades and stuff like that. But I agree with you, Ackman. I do think that something's just going to go right. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah, it's just something about it. Just because he is such a specific talent. Like, to play what Jim said earlier, like he has that Sonic and Knuckles type partnership that he's just waiting for that partner. And I think there's going to be some teams that see that. And I think just something's telling me if that 210 is legit, I'm taking the under on that post NFL draft, regardless where he lands. I think he's gonna be a nice little bright spot.
Yeah, and if you watched him against Texas, I mean, there's no way someone's not going to draft him a little bit higher. What he did against Texas, again, one of the better defenses in the country, from what I gathered. He single-handedly brought them back from possibly being destroyed by Texas. And it was very impressive. So just on that one game tape alone, I just see so much potential. And he's going to be a coach's best friend, like from everything I hear. The workhorse mentality that he has is exactly what a coach is going to absolutely love with his running back. So we'll see what happens. Jim, you have anything else to add?
I just had that one trade. It just like I don't know, like it's, it's you're at the 111. Like, do you want to trade back? Because you mentioned, Mickey, like a lot of these players are going to be kind of in the same bubble. The draft capital will kind of separate them, but like going from the 111 to the 210, which would be Scatterbo, and get a second and Austin Eckler. I thought that was interesting. Like I probably would want the 111, but to move up 10 spots and only give up like a second, plus a running back that's good value.
Did they say what the other second was?
It was 26. So
26. Okay.
TBD on what that second is. TBD.
Yeah, right. In a class I'm not that excited about so far. So
I don't know. I think if I'm ever trading out of the first round, I don't know if I want to trade back into the second round. I'd rather trade back into a different year, get a different first. Like I think I probably would go to a different direction than trading just farther back in the second round. So I mean that's usually how I play.
But it's at 3 for 1 though. Late in the first round. Projection. The projection of hit late in the second round is not that far from the second. Or late in the first round is not that far from the whole second round, which I couldn't believe when I saw that stat. I don't think I would make the move because of where we had who the 111, the name that you had for the 111 but it would at least be a thought because now I don't know what's going to happen with Eckler. That could be a waste. But you get Scatterbo and then another pick next year, plus a veteran in Eckler who has been good, was good last year when he was healthy. So I think it's closer than I originally thought, but I would still take Judkins over that package.
I think it's going to come down to the landing spot for me.
Yep.
I think that's what it's. I mean, not to take the cheat easy answer, but I think that's the tiebreaker here between Judkins and Scatterbo for where's he going to be and what team's going to use him. Because I think, like I said, I just played on earlier. I think Scatterbo is going to go somewhere that's going to utilize his talents, and if it goes to a right spot, man, look out.
All right, guys. Well, those are the 7 guys that we had to talk about. I counted wrong, so I apologize. Originally. So for Jimmy and Jeremy, I'm Mickey. Please listen to us on YouTube, Apple, or Podbean. Also check us out on social at dynastymttops on X, Instagram, and Blue Sky. You can also email us dynastymttops@gmail.com for any feedback or comments. And also would love to hear your topics, especially after the draft. We're looking for anything right now. So kind of up in the air still. So, again, for Jimmy and Jeremy, I'm Mickey. This has been Dynasty from the Mountaintops, and have a great night.
Thanks, guys.
See ya.